Now is the Democratic Party and Nancy Pelosi taking over the House. When you see the volatility in the markets, and today was actually a great day, biggest point gain in history, but when you see all this volatility, it's really because investors are understandably fearful of the Democrats' socialist-style policies. Policies designed to hurt businesses and strengthen government, right? That's what they're about. They are the threat, really and truly, that are hovering over our markets right now, not the Federal Reserve. I mean, I know the president is concerned about higher interest rates and fears that those higher rates will dampen growth, and I'm not dismissing that concern. However, we don't need to worry so much about a quarter-point hike. We should be worried, though, about Nancy Pelosi and her promise to hike taxes on corporations, thereby making us as a nation less competitive. We should worry about Maxine Waters, you heard her there, and her multiple threats against the banking industry, as well as the president himself. And we should worry about Chuck Schumer's simple desire to act as an obstructionist on every single policy put forward by this administration. Obstruct, obstruct, obstruct. These are the real threats to our economy. These are the threats tonight. These politicians with their poorly thought out economic policies and rabid desire to take down the president with investigations into a Russian collusion that, thus far, never actually seemed to happen. That is the real threat. I mean, Jay Powell may raise rates because our economy is doing great. It really is. Did you see the numbers, the sales numbers this holiday season? We're doing great. Wages are growing. GDP is growing. Jobless rate at its lowest historically, certainly for African Americans, for women, for Hispanics. So what I can tell you is we can handle it. We can handle a little quarter-point hike. But what we cannot handle, and we certainly do not need, is for the Democrats to play a major role in economic policy. Every socialist, Marxist country I can think of has failed. Our danger isn't higher interest rates, but a country being dragged left by politicians trying to reconstruct basic economic instincts in the form of socialism. Joining me right now on the real enemies of a booming economy, Trend Macro Chief Investment Officer and Economist, Donald Luskin. Donald, good to see you.
Great to be here, Trish.
I know that, no love lost there for Jay Powell. I have a feeling you probably would not like to see him move on interest rates. That said, in the scheme of things, sir, we've got the Democrats taking over the House in like a matter of days. To me, that is the bigger threat. How worried should we be about their policies?
Trish, this is America. It is our constitutional right to have as many enemies as we want. I agree with you 100% about the threat that the Democrats represent to us. But I think Jay Powell is a threat too, and I think Trump is right to say so. There's one big difference between Powell and the Democrats. The Democrats, you can be sure, are going to spend the next 2 years self-destructing. So yeah, they're the economy's worst enemies. They're their own worst enemy. How do you think it's going to work for Maxine Waters to spend the next 2 years attacking the banks? That's going to be the face of the Democratic Party. Do you think that the stock prices of the banks are going to appreciate that? No. I mean, so when we talk about threats to the market, I think the Democrats are, in fact, Donald, a very real threat. I mean, Jay Powell, look, we can handle a quarter point. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's not a ton of inflation out there. I don't think we need it. But he's responding to the strength of a good economy. My fear here is that the Democrats get in and they do everything they can to destroy a good economy because politically it's worthwhile for them to do so. Fair enough. But to destroy it, what they're going to do is they're going to reveal that their intention is to destroy it. And this is exactly the same thing that happened after Ronald Reagan's first term. The Democrats go completely insane at the prosperity that the supposedly stupid, doofus, clownish Republican president somehow manages to pull off.
Yeah, they kind of referred to Reagan that way, too,
didn't they? Always do the best they can to destroy it, and they destroy themselves in the process. Believe me, this is going to be the greatest political suicide you've ever seen.
I think back to Ronald Reagan and how he was characterized. Our good friend Doug Weed, who's a historian and comes on this program quite a bit, he's pointed out to me, and I remember even, I was a kid back then when Reagan was in office, and how he was sort of painted in the public light. it's sort of a dummy, right? He was just an actor.
Yeah.
He just stood up
Yes.
there and delivered lines. They never understood
The amiable
him.
dunce.
Just like they don't understand this president.
Yep.
There's a correlation, right?
Well, the correlation is that the American public responds to people who look into a television camera and talk to the American people the way the American people want to be talked to. People don't want to be talked down to by arrogant, professorial avatars of the deep state. They want real people like Ronald Reagan, like Donald Trump, and in his own way, like Bill Clinton. It's not like Democrats aren't capable of doing it. It's just that they aren't able to do it now, and that's why this economy is going to do just fine, because the Democrats are not going to be able to pull this off. Trust me on this.
Well, let's hope that's the case. I do think, Donald, that when you say that they're their own worst enemy, you're right. And you know why they're their own worst enemy? The more they move left, and they're increasingly moving left, the more they isolate themselves. Because we have only to look around the world, as I said, at Marxist socialist economies that always fail. Always.
Yep. Well, they're not listening to the American people. They're listening to themselves. And, you know, they're listening to, you know, a couple of thought leaders in the media, and believe me, not on this channel. And they're just all full up with the narcissism and the virtue signaling of thinking they're doing the noble thing and looking out